Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome back to this week's Thought for the Week, where we're continuing looking at some of our favourite Bible characters. And this is the last in our series. But we've been looking at all sorts of different people. We've actually got somebody a little bit different again today. In case you're just joining us, I'm Rachel, and this is Hayley from Nisky. Now, when you started school, Hayley, many moons ago, or when you started school, wherever you're watching this, I imagine when you were in reception, you had a hearing test and an eye test to check that everything was working well for you to get the best out of your learning. Do you remember having a hearing test, Hayley?
I do.
I thought we could do a hearing test today.
We can try. My hearing is rubbish.
Well, I've got plenty of sounds to pick, so we'll pick a few. We'll start with a nice easy one. First of all, make sure my sound's turned up. Here we go.
That's an air horn.
It is an air horn. Well done. Shall we try another one? Right, I hope you don't recognise this one, because you've heard it before.
No, I have no idea.
No, anybody else got it? Breaking glass, apparently.
Okay.
We'll try another one.
Is that a car starting?
It is a car starting. Let's try another one.
That's a horse.
You're doing very well, Hayley, because I know your hearing's not particularly good. Last one.
That one I recognise, because Nana does that a lot. You can hear her from outside her house. It's somebody snoring.
It is. Shall we listen to that one again?
Don't tell Nana I said that.
So today's person that we're going to hear about is Samuel. Now, Samuel is the young boy in this drawing, and he was being looked after by a man named Eli. And they both lived in the temple. Samuel didn't live with his mum and dad, but his mum and dad did come and visit and bring him a coat occasionally. But Samuel was looked after by Eli in the temple to learn all about God. There was one night when Samuel had gone to bed, and Samuel was sleeping, and he woke up. He heard a voice saying, "Samuel, Samuel." So he jumped out of bed and went rushing to Eli, because he thought it must be Eli that's calling him. So he went to Eli and went, "Eli, I'm here. What do you want?" And Eli, who was also asleep, I imagine, was like, What? No, I didn't call you. Go back to bed." So Samuel went back to bed, went back to sleep. And a little while later, he heard his name being called again. "Samuel, Samuel." So guess what he did?
Did he go and see Eli?
He did. He jumped out of bed again, ran to Eli, because it must be Eli that's calling him, and went, "Eli, Eli, I'm here. What do you need?" And Eli was like, "What?" Because he'd gone back to sleep. He was like, What? Oh, I didn't call you. Go back to bed." Woken up again. "Samuel, Samuel." Again, he goes through to Eli. "Eli, Eli, what is it that you need? It's Samuel here. Eli looked at him and the penny dropped for Eli, because it wasn't Eli calling him. Who do you think it was that was saying Samuel's name to get his attention?
Was it his mum? Did they sneak into the temple?
No, it wasn't his mum. It wasn't. It was Eli that worked out who it was. He said, now go to bed, get comfy and go back to sleep. And if you hear that voice again, I want you to say, speak, Lord, your servant is listening. Because Eli thought that it was God that was talking to him. So I imagine that Samuel was a little bit puzzled. He went back to bed, got himself cozy and went to sleep. And again, he heard the Samuel, Samuel. Do you think Samuel ran through to Eli this time?
I think I would have done.
Yeah, but Samuel didn't, because he remembered what Eli had said. So he sat up in bed and he said, speak, Lord, your servant is listening. And Samuel had a very special and important gift. Samuel could listen to God and God would speak to him and give him special messages to be able to pass on to the people. Samuel was a prophet. And although Samuel lived in the temple, it says that the boy Samuel continued to grow in stature, in height. Not only did he grow in stature though, but he grew in favour with the Lord and with the people. And Samuel, for his whole life, listened to God and to what God was saying. And he would pass on messages to the people and tell them what they needed to hear. Now, we've heard, haven't we, about how we've had several judges. I think Haley said a few weeks ago that there were 40 judges, and the people would have a judge that would help them, and then they would get independent and they would go away from following God, and it would all be a big disaster. So they would need a new judge to come in and rescue them again. And then you would have this spiral, this cycle of things going on. But around this time, the people had seen that they were the only one who had a judge in charge, and actually all the other nations around them had a king. And they wanted to be like everyone else. And they wanted a king. Now, there's a saying, I think. Have you heard the saying, Haley? Be careful what you wish for. It might just happen. And the people wished for a king. And God said, okay. So Samuel would listen to God. And he was given the special role of navigating the people between having a judge in charge and having a king in charge, which was a very, very special job, which needed very, very special skills. But one of the skills that Samuel really needed was to be able to listen to God and to hear the direction that he wanted Samuel to go in, but also to listen to God and to pass on important messages for the people to hear, even the difficult ones. So how good are you at listening to instructions, Haley?
I'm not very good at all.
Does it depend on who it is that's giving you the instructions?
Sometimes I think so. I think I'm better at listening to instructions from somebody in charge of something than I am from other people.
Right, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, definitely. Because Samuel's role was to listen carefully and pass on those instructions or what God was saying to the people. But we all listen to different people, don't we? As Samuel will have done as well. So who do you listen to? And how good are you at listening? Because in Samuel's time, although Samuel was really young, the people knew that Samuel listened to God, and they knew that the messages that he was saying were from God, and they knew that he was reliable. Hayley, are you good at listening to God?
I hope so. I don't always like it, but I do try and listen.
Yeah, I think that's true for me as well. But just like Samuel, speak, Lord, your servant is listening. It's not just hearing, but it's doing as well, isn't it? And in another verse in the Bible, it says, don't just be hearers of the word, but put it into action as well. And sometimes that's the little bit that's a bit tricky, but that shows that we've listened well to the instructions. And that can be a challenge. But Samuel was only a very young boy when he first heard God's voice and grew up to do amazing things, but continued to listen well throughout his entire life. Hayley, would you like to say a prayer for us?
Yeah, why not? So I'll say a very quick prayer. And if at the end you agree, just say the word amen, because that's all it means. Dear Jesus, thank you for Samuel. Thank you that he did listen to you. And thank you for the example that he is, where he heard you a few times before he did listen. But help us to listen first time and to recognize when you were talking. Help us also to listen to other people and help us to grow in favour with people too, as well as you. Amen.
Amen. Actually, when we listen well to each other, that does help us to be a good friend and help us to win favour. So just like Samuel grew in stature and favour with the Lord and with men, if we get better at being good listeners, then we will also grow in favour with other people, because other people will feel valued because we've listened to them. Brilliant. And we are going to do something different for the next few weeks leading up to Christmas. But I hope you've enjoyed looking at some of our Bible heroes. And I wonder who we'll look at next time in the run-up to Christmas. Come back next week and find out. See you soon. Bye.